Xbox is sending out codes for Gears of War Reloaded. We have a new look at the potential interface of the new Xbox interface when everything is integrated, and there's some interesting stuff in there. The Nintendo Switch 2 and the Xbox Series S, how close are they? Seemingly, they are very close. The Switch 2, we have the sales numbers in the first 4 days. It's pretty mind blowing. We have some looks at Resident Evil 9, a pretty cool game. The series, at least that I like, has been canceled at the least the newest iteration of that game. In Mindseye, what is going on with that game? From everything we've seen, it is not very good. But before we do jump into this, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, hit the subscribe, share, like, all that stuff. It really helps the channel out, helps it get out there for more people to see. And if you think the content is good, consider doing those steps. But for now, let's jump into the news. So Gears of War Reloaded is coming out on August 26th. This is going to be kind of the second remaster, bringing it up to the current generation of consoles. You're getting a ton of great stuff with this, 4K up to 120 FPS. And within the multiplayer mode, it's going to be expanded out to a much larger community. And I think it is going to make the Gears of War multiplayer scene revitalize, as there will be tons of people jumping into this new version of the game, whether that's via Game Pass or purchasing it or on the PS5 now. Well, Xbox is already sending out codes for Gears of War Reloaded to Xbox gamers if you already own the Ultimate Edition. And I believe if you were to go and buy this today or something, the Ultimate Edition, I think you would also get a code. I'm sure they're sending them out to anybody who does end up owning it before the game does release. You're also getting access to the beta on Xbox. So lots of cool stuff there when it comes to Gears of War Reloaded. I was initially excited for this game because I'm a huge Gears of War fan. I was hoping they were going to remaster Gears of War 2 or Gears of War 3. They went back again with the first Gears of War. But now when I think about the multiplayer and the 120 FPS and a lot of people jumping in, I am getting more and more excited. But we have this here from Snap Blast Play here on Twitter saying Xbox is sending out codes for Gears of War Reloaded if you already own the Ultimate Edition. And this is the message they're getting. As a thank you for being a Gears fan, we're offering owners of Gears of War Ultimate Edition Digital a free code for Gears of War Reloaded, playable on Xbox Series X and S and PC. Redeem on console for Xbox.com, blah, 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 blah. But the key thing here is digital. And this kind of brings us to a discussion as to what is happening with the entire physical market on Xbox. As somebody who likes his physical collection, the Xbox side of things, there's so many more advantages of going fully digital now on Xbox that I think I'm pretty much going to tap out on buying physical Xbox games. If I do buy physical games, they're more than likely going to be on other systems, specifically because what we are seeing here with things like the Outer Worlds 2, where on the Xbox version of the game, you can buy a physical version of it, but it's only a key inside of the Outer Worlds 2 case, whereas on the PlayStation version, you were actually getting a disc. So with the Xbox strategy, it makes sense for them to push as much digital as possible with things like Game Pass and Xbox Play Anywhere. But if you are a physical collector, even when you're looking here at Gears of War Reloaded and them giving out the codes for Gears of War Reloaded to people who own the Ultimate Edition, you have to be the owner of the digital version, at least from what it says in that message. It would be interesting to know if somebody who has the physical version of Gears of War Ultimate, if they got that message too. So we'll see. But as of right now, Xbox is definitely going fully digital. But there are so many benefits to that, as they really showed that off at the showcase. It's almost hard to ignore. If you're on Xbox, you might as well just kind of get into the fully digital side of things. That's kind of my mindset right now when it comes to playing within the Xbox ecosystem. Going forward with the Xbox ecosystem, they're going to be expanding out the user interface on mobile devices. We're seeing this on the Xbox PC app. You can go to it now. You can go into compact mode. It runs and looks great with a controller. They've added a lot of features to it. Still needs to be improved, but right now I think it is definitely on the right track, something that they've been working a lot on. Well, Clobril here, who, as we know, is big in the Xbox community, put this out, and this is the potential of what we could end up seeing when it comes to Xbox on handhelds, on different screens, on your ROG Xbox Ally, on your PC, and that is every single game from all of the launchers that are accessible games like Hollow Knight, Silksong, which will be launching into Game Pass day one, of course. But then you see here Steam, Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us, Part 2 remastered, more Game Pass stuff, and then just a collection of different games across the board, including another PlayStation game, which is Horizon Forbidden West. There is still that discussion going on almost on a daily basis as to will PlayStation block these games? They're not going to block them. They will not block them. That is my non-bold prediction because I think it is just a logical take on this. And I think we will start seeing these PlayStation games showing up within this Xbox app, and it will have create a huge discussion continuously online. I mean, we're already seeing the discussions about is the ROG Ally, Xbox Ally, an Xbox or not? It is an Xbox. It's as much of an Xbox as anything that plays Xbox games, even if you consider the specs of this. Like if you can't even look at the hardware and argue that it's just a PC and not an Xbox because the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S have the same hardware essentially under the hood. They're both basically just PCs with custom operating systems on them. And that is exactly what the ROG Xbox Ally is. It's going to have Xbox on the PC hardware, which is the same as your consoles. So there really is no difference. It's all about the software. It's all about the operating system and how accessible are the games. And with Xbox, what they're doing with the different launchers, giving you access to everything, that is great for the Xbox ecosystem. And I'm extremely excited for it. So downplaying this to me just doesn't really make too much sense because I think this is a great thing for all gamers. Even if you haven't experienced the Xbox ecosystem, you go in and you see this, you're going to see just how much content you're getting, how much value you're getting from Game Pass. And then obviously if they can bring in their other launchers. And the next question is, will they be doing the same thing with the at-home console for the next generation? Because that would be a massive, massive game changer. All right, let's talk Nintendo Switch 2. Lots of questions about the performance. I have a Nintendo Switch 2. I've been using it a lot over the last number of days, ever since it did release. I like it. I think it is actually a very nice upgrade from the Nintendo Switch. It's basically what I was looking for. I didn't need anything revolutionary. I just needed games to run better that were running poorly, and backwards compatibility for the Switch 1 games with games like Pokemon run great. Cyberpunk 2077, for the power of the Nintendo Switch 2, I think they did a very good job of optimizing it. But people still question, is this PS4 power? Is this Xbox Series S power? Well, we have Koei Tecmo here who has weighed in saying that the performance is actually closer to the Xbox Series S. And as we know, the Switch 2 has an NVIDIA SoC and they have DLSS and stuff. So they're going to get good results from this one way or another. But they do say here, specifically during an interview with WCCF Tech, the Wild Hearts producer, Takuto Edogawa, revealed some details about the Nintendo Switch 2 regarding the raw computing power. And he was asked whether the Switch 2 is closer to the PS4 or the Xbox Series S. And he says that it is difficult to generalize due to the raw computing power having many characteristics. However, he feels the Switch 2 is closer to the Xbox Series S than the PS4. And he was also asked other questions about the Switch 2, like when they received the development kit and what the resolution and frame rates they were going for with this version of Wild Hearts, or Wild Hearts S. And he refrained from answering those questions. However, he did reveal one challenge faced during development, which is that he's saying here, even though this isn't a particular to the Switch 2's processing power, the developer struggled with processing when multiplayer increased from 3 to 4 players, adding that the team is very particular with the character creation feature and it is very robust. So, which is why adding additional characters turned out to be a challenge. So there you have it. This is Koei Tecmo. They are believing here that the Nintendo Switch 2 is closer to the Xbox Series S. And I can see that. I can see that simply because of these features that this console does have with the NVIDIA DLSS stuff. And from what we're seeing here with Cyberpunk 2077, which runs fairly well here on the series or on the Nintendo Switch. You're not getting 60 frames per second, but you are getting 4K targeting 30 frames per second. There's also a performance mode which targets 40 frames per second. And for a console like the Nintendo Switch 2, which is an underpowered console, they're not going for high-end tech. They're not going for high-end power because it's also, of course, a handheld. it's doing pretty well. I've also seen things about the power draw on this, and it is doing better than things like the Steam Deck. So the Switch 2 will be very interesting to see just kind of how this console does play out with more games that do release from a third party perspective when new games do drop, and if they are even going to be able to run on the Nintendo Switch 2. But I feel like developers are going to find ways to optimize for this console, as it is going to sell like crazy, and we've already seen how well it is starting here for the Nintendo Switch 2, as they've sold 3.5 million units in 4 days, which is the biggest console launch ever, essentially. Here they say here Nintendo Switch 2 sells 3.5 million in 4 days, likely the biggest console launch ever. Specifically, they put this out. This is from Nintendo of America and Doug Bowser. Previously, we had reported numbers that weren't confirmed. This is 100% confirmed. They say here fans around the world are showing their enthusiasm for Nintendo Switch 2 as an upgraded way to play at home and on the go. And he says, we are thankful for their response and happy to see the fun they are already having with Nintendo Switch 2 as they explore new features and games that bring friends and family together in new ways. And he says here, this is from the Nintendo Europe boss, Luciano Perena, commenting that the Nintendo Switch 2 represents the next evolution of the Switch, and happy and grateful to see people already embracing it across Europe. Now, in comparison to other consoles that have had massive launches, PlayStation 5, they shipped 3.4 million. So that's not sold, but they shipped 3.4 million units in its first 4 weeks. Now, that's 4.5 million in its first 7 weeks, and Sony's consoles also had stock shortages, so that could have affected that overall. But this is in 4 days, 3.5 million that they have been able to sell here, which is just pretty crazy. I mean, this console seemingly has gotten a lot of new people. It's also gotten probably a lot of people to transfer over from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. There's some great trade-in deals, which a lot of people probably took advantage of. I think at this point with the Switch 1, for a lot of people out there who used it a lot or were playing all of the games that were coming out, especially in recent times, it was time. They just really needed that upgrade to be able to get the games to run and play better. What this also does tell me is that the overwhelming negativity online towards this console when they announced it in terms of the price didn't really have an effect. Most people were okay with spending that to get the upgrade for the Switch 2, even if they did voice their opinion that they disliked it, or the online community didn't represent what was going to happen here at launch whatsoever. So pretty crazy. We'll see how this does continue to sell. We've seen consoles start off very good and then fall off. I just don't see this happening with the Switch 2. I think this console is going to sell 80 to 100 million, maybe even more than that. Like, I think it is going to be very, very successful. I know the Switch 1 is pushing to be the best selling console of all time. Maybe the Switch 2 will end up selling very similar numbers to that, which is pretty nuts. So good for Nintendo, I guess. They really know how to sell a console, even when there is backlash, even when there is negativity, and even when they have to deal with things like the whole canceling of the pre-order dates in the United States and Canada, and then relaunching it a couple of weeks later. Another company that is very good at what they do is Capcom, and they're commenting here on, I would say, one of the stupidest things, or things that I dislike the most about the Nintendo Switch 2, because Nintendo is known for physical games. Like, they were the last standing company here that was allowing you to build up a collection where if you took a game off of the wall or off of the shelf, you put it into the console, you would be able to play it, which I think the Switch 2 is going to make Switch 1 even more collectible for. But now they have game key cards, and most third parties are taking part in that because it's far cheaper to make the game and put it on a game key card. You really only have 2 options right now as a developer. It's a game key card or a 64 gigabyte card, which is what Cyberpunk did, but it's far more expensive to produce that. And Capcom is considering here the game key cards as digital sales, even though this is going to be a physical box you go into the store, pick up, bring it home, take out the physical card, put it into your console as an unlock key. Capcom here is counting it as digital sales, which I think is correct. They are right that the game key cards are digital sales. There's almost no point in buying them, other than, I guess, if you want to trade them in at a future time. That would be the only advantage right now for those game key cards. But asked in their recent financial results whether the sales of game key cards like Street Fighter 6 are recorded by the company as physical or digital units, the company stated that they would be recorded as digital sales. And I think they're correct, but I think also for them, they're probably happy about this because they want to increase their numbers of digital sales for shareholders, for the business side of things, because it's more profitable to sell your games digitally. Stephen Kick here, the CEO of Night Dive Studios, told GameIndustry.biz that seeing Nintendo do this is a little disheartening, adding, "You would hope that a company that big, that has such a storied history, would take preservation a little more seriously." And that's where I see that too. They should have given more options here. At the end of the day, they could have kept the game key cards, but given more options for the size of cartridges that developers could use to put their games on, and made the options cheaper. Things like that would have just made things better. And you would have had more third parties probably opting for that at the end of the day, but it's obviously not going to happen. One series that I think is a lot of fun is Just Cause. There was a Just Cause 5 in development. It's reportedly canceled mid development now. Not that surprised. I don't know if this is one of Square Enix's bigger titles. I don't think it is, but with everything happening within the industry, I'm actually not too surprised to hear about this news. Right now, they say it has been claimed that Just Cause 5 was midway through development before it being canned some time ago. And this revelation comes from the LinkedIn page of developer Sumo Digital. They say, who is assumed to have been partnering with Avalanche Studios on Just Cause 5 at least 3 years ago. They go on here to say, we've not seen a new Just Cause title since 2018, with Just Cause 4 launching worldwide to a paltry reception. And I feel like if they were mid development with everything happening here and across the industry, development costs going up, and this is not one of their bigger franchises, it was probably not that hard of a decision. MP first managed to track down a developer profile on LinkedIn, which clearly states that they were the vehicles feature team lead working on Just Cause 5, but there is a note there indicating that the project is now canceled. So if you were looking forward to it, which is I was looking forward to, because I think the Just Cause series is just plain simple a ton of fun, all the different things that you can do with it. It is now canceled, and I would be surprised if they ever bring this series back, at least in the near future, simply because if they're canceling 5 with everything happening within the industry, with development costs going up, with games being canceled and layoffs, I would be shocked if they do end up bringing Just Cause back for a very, very long time. Another game that I am very much looking forward to, which was a highlight across all of these shows this year at Summer Games Fest, was Resident Evil Requiem. It was funny how they handled the announcement of this one, where they kind of teased twice that they weren't going to show a trailer for this, and then they ended off Summer Games Fest with the show itself. But we have a hands-on impression here. Summary from Shinobi 602 via IGN and Rock Paper Shotgun. And this game is sound like it is going to be one of those games of the year, as Capcom and Resident Evil always knock it out of the park. But goes here and says you can freely switch between first and third person camera from the options menu, which is nice because a lot of people, that was one of the debates when Resident Evil 7 came out, was did they like the first person? Should they have gone with third person? I thought it was fine. 7 and 8 were great, but now they're going to make everybody happy here with the ability to switch between the two modes. They say a familiar character also returns. I don't know if you can play with other characters. Gameplay demo begins in Remnant Hotel in Raccoon City with Grace upside down on the examination table. Grace must navigate what looks like a medical ward. Powerless at the start, can pick up and use makeshift weapons like glass bottles. Goes on here to say, even though she's an FBI agent with some training, Grace is more of a bookworm, more afraid of her nightmarish surroundings, more fearful as she explores. Horrifying new monster stalks you in this game, similar to Mr. X and Lady Dimitrescu, which is always one of the most terrifying things within Resident Evil when you're getting chased and you know you got to do something here or you're going to die. So that's cool that they're bringing one back. And they're saying here that it is one of the best monsters yet. Tall in stature and moves around like a xenomorph with sounds and movements nearby. And some previewers felt the fear was more palpable and stressful in first person mode and running away from the monster than third person mode. And first person highlights exploration and dread. Third person seems better suited for livelier monster encounters. So it seems like if you want more of a horror experience, you're going to want to play this game in first person. If you want more of a horror action, you're going to want to do it in third. And Grace can sometimes stumble over her own feet while trying to run, visually striking mastery of light and darkness, which is not surprising because this is going to be one of the best looking games we see. Capcom's engine is amazing. And I think it will probably end up being a game of the year nomination when it does drop. I just they always knock it out of the park with this series, and the last two have been very, very good. The remakes have been phenomenal, so you really don't expect anything less here from Resident Evil Requiem, which I hope is going to be the pinnacle of these last three. They hope they end off on a very, very high note. And finally, Mindseye. This game came out on June 10th. and it basically launched as expected. Majority of the reviews are negative. This game needed to be delayed to get all of these bugs worked out. If you've been online at all looking at gameplay clips of this game, it's actually quite comical, some of the stuff that is happening. But Build It Rocketboy says that they are working around the clock to address numerous issues being reported by players. Right now, out of 854 reviews on Steam, 484 have been negative, meaning it has an approval rating of around 43%. They didn't send any review codes out for this game, which is always a bad sign. If there's no review codes whatsoever sent, whether that is to independent media or big media sites, it's a bad sign. I always think that means the developer is not confident in the release of this game. And clearly this is what is happening here with Mindseye. You can see this picture here. Just weird stuff. This is one that I've watched a few times, and it's just creepy, this glitch that is happening. As you can see, when the NPC gets hit, it like turns into a huge glitch. I don't know what this is, but it's like a monster. Obviously it's not a monster, but it looks like a monster. And then you fail the mission. And there's just a bunch of other things here that the NPCs fight back, but it's like hilarious in the way that they do fight back and stuff. So they're just, it's a glitch fest, this game. It's what it is, and it's sad because this one looks like it could be cool. I hope they continue to actually work hard on it. Hopefully they don't get shut down if they don't sell enough of it, and they can actually bring out a product that people will enjoy more and will not be as buggy, because it looks like the game has potential. I've seen some good comments on this game, like with the story, and people are just having general fun, but clearly with how broken it is, I would wait until this game is completely fixed. But I'll end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.